Much Ado About Nothing, Part 2. Cupid's crafty arrow, the night before the wedding. Cupid's crafty arrow. Benedick was strolling alone in Leonato's orchard, and as he went, he mused to himself. I do wonder, he thought, that one man, seeing how much another man is a fool when he is in love, after he has laughed at such shallow follies in others, will himself become the object of his own scorn by falling in love, and such a man is Claudio. I have known when there was no music with him but the drum and the fife, and now he had rather hear the tabor and the pipe. I have known when he would have walked 10 miles on foot to see a good armour, and now he will lie 10 nights awake, carving the fashion of a new doublet. He was wont to speak plain and to the purpose, like an honest man and a soldier, and now his words are a very fantastical banquet, just so many strange dishes. Shall I ever be so converted, and see with those eyes? I cannot tell. I think not. I will not be sworn that love may not transform me to an oyster, but I'll take my oath on it, till he have made an oyster of me. He shall never make me such a fool. One woman is fair, yet I am well. Another is wise, yet I am well. Another virtuous, yet I am well. But till all graces be in one woman shall not come in my grace. Rich shall she be, that's certain. Wise and virtuous, or I'll have none of her. Fair, or I'll never look on her. Mild, or come not near me. Noble, or not I for an angel. Of good discourse, an excellent musician in her hair. Her hair shall be of what colour it pleases God. Ha! The prince and Monsieur love. I will hide me in the arbour. And Benedick hastily concealed himself as Don Pedro, Claudio, and Leonato approached, followed by some musicians. Come, shall we hear this music? Said Don Pedro, seating himself on a bench within earshot of the arbour. See you where Benedick has hidden himself? He added in a low voice. Oh, very well, my lord, answered Claudio. When the music is ended, we will give him something to think about. Come, Balthasar, we'll hear that song again, said Don Pedro. So the musicians lightly touched the strings of their instruments, and Balthasar began his song. Sigh no more, ladies, sigh no more. Men were deceivers ever. 1 foot in sea and 1 on shore, to one thing constant never. Then sigh not so, but let them go, and be you blithe and bonny, converting all your sounds of woe into hey nonny, nonny. Sing no more ditties, sing no more of dumps so dull and heavy. The fraud of man was ever so, since summer first was leafy. Then sigh not so, but let them go, and be you blithe and bonny, converting all your sounds of woe into hey nonny, nonny. By my troth, a good song, said the prince. Balthasar, I pray you get us some excellent music, for tomorrow night we would have it at the Lady Hero's chamber window. The best I can, my lord. Do so. Farewell. Come hither, Leonato, said Don Pedro, when the young musician had retired. What was it that you told me of today? That your niece Beatrice was in love with Signor Benedick? Go on, whispered Claudio. We shall catch our bird. I did never think that lady would have loved any man, he added aloud, for Benedick's benefit. No, nor I neither, said Leonato. But it is most wonderful that she should so dote on Signor Benedick, whom she has in all outward behaviour always seemed to abhor. Is it possible? Sits the wind in that corner? Murmured the astonished Benedick in his hiding-place. By my troth, lord, I cannot tell what to think of it, but that she loves him frantically, continued Leonato. It is past the bounds of belief. Has she made her affection known to Benedick? Asked Don Pedro. No, and she swears she never will. That is the cause of her unhappiness. 'Tis true indeed, put in Claudio. Shall I, says she, that have so often encountered him with scorn, Write to him that I love him? I measure him by my own spirit, she says, continued Leonato, for I should flout him if he wrote to me. Yea, though I love him, I should. And then she weeps and sobs, beats her heart, tears her hair, said Claudio. My daughter is sometimes afraid she will do a desperate outrage to herself, said Leonato. It were good if Benedick knew it from someone else, if she will not reveal it, said Don Pedro. To what end? Asked Claudio. He would make but a sport of it, and torment the poor lady worse. If he did, it would be a charity to hang him, said Don Pedro indignantly. She is an excellent, sweet lady. And she is exceedingly wise, put in Claudio. In everything but in loving Benedick, said Don Pedro. Oh, my lord, I am sorry for her, as I have just cause, being her uncle and her guardian, said Leonato. I would she had bestowed this affection on me, said Don Pedro. I would marry her at once. Well, Leonato, I am sorry for your niece. I pray you tell Benedick of it, and hear what he will say. Never tell him, my lord, said Claudio. Let her wear out her affection with good counsel. Nay, that's impossible, said Leonato. She may wear her heart out first. Well, we will hear further of it from your daughter, said Don Pedro. I love Benedick well, and I wish he would modestly examine himself to see how much he is unworthy so good a lady. My lord, will you walk? Dinner is ready, said Leonato. If he do not dote on her after this, I will never trust my expectation, laughed Claudio, as the conspirators withdrew. Let there be the same net spread for Beatrice, said Don Pedro, and that your daughter and her gentlewomen must carry it out. The sport will be when they each believe in the other's doting, when there is no such matter. That's the scene I should like to see. Let us send her to call him in to dinner. When the others had gone, Benedick came forth from his hiding place, deeply impressed with what he had heard. Poor lady, he thought, so she really loves me. Well, her affection must be requited. I hear how I am censured. They say I will bear myself proudly if I see the love come from her. They say, too, she will rather die than give any sign of affection. I never thought to marry. I must not seem proud. Happy are those that hear their detractions and can put them to mending. They say the lady is fair. 'Tis a truth, I can bear them witness. And virtuous, it is so. And wise, but for loving me. But my troth, it is no addition to her wit, and no great argument of her folly, for I will be horribly in love with her. I may chance to have some odd quirks and remnants of wit broken on me, because I have railed so long against marriage. But does not a man's opinion alter? When I said I would die a bachelor, I did not think I should live till I was married. Here comes Beatrice. By this day she is a fair lady. I do spy some marks of love in her. Quite unconscious of all that had taken place, Beatrice advanced, and in her usual mocking style announced, Against my will I am sent to bid you come in to dinner. Fair Beatrice, I thank you for your pains, said Benedick. I took no more pains for those thanks than you take pains to thank me, said Beatrice carelessly. If it had been painful, I would not have come. You take pleasure, then, in the message? Said Benedick eagerly. Yes, just so much as you may take upon a knife's point, and choke a daw withal, laughed Beatrice. You have no appetite, signor. Fare you well. And off she went gaily. Ha! Against my will I am sent to bid you to come in to dinner. There's a double meaning in that, thought the poor deluded Benedick. I took no more pains for those thanks than you took pains to thank me. That's as much to say, any pains that I take for you is as easy as thanks. If I do not take pity on her, I am a villain. If I do not love her, I am a Jew. I will go get her picture. The same trick which Don Pedro, Claudio, and Leonato had played on Benedick was played on Beatrice by her cousin Hero and her gentlewomen, Margaret and Ursula. Beatrice was lured into the garden, and there, unseen, as she imagined, by the others, she heard them discussing Benedick's love for her. They followed much the same lines as the three men had done with regard to Beatrice. They spoke of Benedick's hopeless affection, of his many good qualities, and of his fear of exciting Beatrice's scorn if he should say anything of his devotion. They said it was a great pity that the Lady Beatrice was so proud and hard-hearted, and that they certainly would never tell her of Benedick's feelings towards her, for she would only laugh at him and treat him with cruel scorn. "Yet tell her of it. Hear what she will say," Ursula pretended to urge Hero. "No," said Hero, "I would rather go to Benedick and counsel him to fight against his passion." Having skillfully performed their task, the ladies retired, leaving Beatrice overcome with wonder at what she had heard, and with all her pride melting into a strange new feeling of love. The night before the wedding. It was not likely that Benedick's changed behavior should escape notice, and Don Pedro and Claudio pretended to think he was in love, and began to tease him unmercifully. Benedick met their raillery with an air of lofty scorn, but nothing would stop the shafts of wit which the light-hearted gentleman levelled at their deluded companion, and they continued to twit him on his pensive demeanour and the new air of fashion which he was adopting. But all gladness and gaiety were suddenly clouded over with heavy gloom. Having carefully prepared his villainous plot by the aid of his follower Borachio, Don John came to Claudio and the Prince of Aragon and told them what had been agreed, namely, that Hero was unworthy to be the wife of Claudio, for she was already in love with Borachio, and that if the Prince and Count Claudio wished to prove the truth of his statement, they had only to go that night to the street outside Leonato's palace, where they would see Hero speaking out of a window to Borachio. Don Pedro and Claudio were, of course, at first stunned and incredulous, but Don John never faltered in the terrible lie he was relating. "If you follow me, I will show you enough," he concluded, "and when you have heard more and seen more, proceed accordingly." "If I see anything tonight, why I should not marry her tomorrow," said Claudio, "in the congregation where I should wed, there will I shame her." "And as I helped you to woo her, I will join with you to disgrace her," said Don Pedro. Now, the watchmen who kept the streets of Messina were a silly set of old men, whose only idea of duty was to potter about the streets, and keep as far as possible out of the way of anyone who was likely to give them any trouble. Chief of them was a constable called Dogberry, whose ignorance and stupidity were only equalled by his enormous self-conceit. On the night before the wedding, however, these brilliant watchmen actually did contrive to effect a capture which led to the happiest results. Dogberry had finished his string of ridiculous instructions to the band, and had taken his departure, when two wayfarers came along from opposite directions, and stopped to speak to each other. These were Borachio and Conrad, the two followers of the wicked Don John. The street was quite dark and apparently deserted, and as at that moment it began to drizzle with rain, the two men took shelter under a convenient pent-house. Suspicious of some treason, the watchmen concealed themselves near, and thus overheard the whole tale of villainy which Borachio confessed to Conrad. "Know that I have tonight wooed Margaret, the Lady Hero's gentlewoman, by the name of Hero," he said. "She leans out of the window to me, she bids me 1,000 times good night. But I should first tell you how the Prince, Claudio, and my master, placed and instructed by my master Don John, saw afar off in the orchard this affectionate interview. And did they think Margaret was Hero? 2 of them did, the Prince and Claudio, but the devil, my master, knew she was Margaret. Deceived partly by the darkness of the night, but chiefly by my villainy, which confirmed any slander that Don John invented, away went Claudio enraged, swore that he would meet her as was appointed next morning at the church, and there, before the whole congregation, shame her with what he had seen, and send her home again without a husband." Borachio had scarcely finished speaking when the watchmen pounced on the 2 villains. Surprised by the suddenness of the onslaught, they were quickly overpowered, and finding any attempt at resistance useless, they had to submit to being led ignominiously away.